Hello, this is an informative speech, and I want to inform you about the historical and really astronomical prevalence of pyramid building and the science, dogma, and beliefs of the cultures who created them, of what we know. You know, we can only guess, we can only surmise, we can only come up with theories. We don't have solid evidence as to why they were built. Most of us don't. So pyramids have been on this earth since the beginning of modern recorded history. They've been around. They're tremendous feats of architecture and engineering which could not be replicated today. To me, that's amazing. As I stated before in previous speeches, I'm in the field of building, I'm in the field of engineering and architecture, and I continue to be mystified as to, you know, how they were constructed, and knowing that we can't replicate it today. They didn't have cranes, they didn't have laser levels, they didn't have GPS locating, and they're placing these pyramids on accurate points around the earth for a specific reason. We don't know what the reason is. We can only surmise. So another question is, how were ancient civilizations able to build them, and what was their purpose? Could they be part of an ancient civilization of pyramid builders that travel around? Some say an interplanetary race of people traveled around and built pyramids. No one knows why. Let me cover some main points. There are more than 20 pyramids located around the earth, and large pyramids that have been researched so far. You know, they're in Egypt, China, Spain, France, Croatia, Slovenia, Serbia, Greece. They're all over the world. Let's take, for example, Bosnia. There's a large pyramid complex in Bosnia with 3 different pyramids. They just started studying those recently in the early 2000s. They're made of a kind of mixed concrete. They also have subterranean chambers, water supplies, all these different amenities of current civilization. They roughly carbon dated those to 12,000 BC, which would make them, some say, older than the Great Pyramids. Again, these are educated guesses. Let's talk about the pyramids in Egypt. The Great Pyramid, which is known as the Pyramid of Khufu, and there's some debate as to whether he built it or he took ownership of it and it already existed, because they date that pyramid to roughly 2500 BC, whereas some people say that it was around 10,000 BC. Again, there's all these different theories. No one really has a solid, definitive answer as to why it's there, where it came from. I mean, there's a stock answer, and that's that it's a burial chamber. That they're all burial chambers, and they are for the kings and queens of a certain civilization to travel on to the afterlife. That's the known kind of quasi-religious explanation of it. So here's another fact about the Great Pyramid of China, or the Great Pyramid of Egypt. The Pyramid of Khufu was built out of 2.6 million blocks of stone. And the stone, it was constructed out of limestone. Each had a volume of 1 cubic meter, weighing 2.5 metric tons. Now, for those who don't know how much a ton is, it's 2,200 pounds. So that's roughly around in the 5,000 pound range per stone. And there's 2.6 million 5,000-pound stones. We could not replicate that now. It would be too expensive. It's a monumental undertaking. They say that they estimated that it took 26 years. Scientists have said that. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. They said it took 26 years with 100,000 laborers. And to me, how do you harness manpower to that amount of stone? I mean, how do you place it? You don't have a crane. You don't have any earth-moving equipment. You have nothing but people and copper tools, because it wasn't the Iron Age yet. So they're saying that they don't, have access to steel. So how could they quarry and machine blocks? Now there's limestone blocks that were a facing that was over the pyramid that has since been removed, that were machined to 1/100th of an inch. We cannot replicate that now. And I'm just so amazed. And there's so many facts, and there's just so much out there. If you Google it, it's amazing. I mean, here's another sub-point. In Egypt alone, there's 118 pyramids. Smaller ones, not major ones, so we really don't. I don't know if they're really counted as being like the seventh wonder of the world. Material that was used to build them was usually limestone, quartz, or granite, which is super hard. Limestone is softer. Quartz is in between the two. Granite is one of the most dense materials available. They machined it somehow. You could, I don't know how you could wet it and slowly sand it to a exact true dimension, but it's difficult. So at around 3000 BC, there were pyramids being built simultaneously by different cultures who supposedly had no knowledge of each other. This was in Bosnia and China, all over the world, Egypt, South America. And I surmise that there have had to been some type of communication between the cultures to trade the vast knowledge of pyramid building and astronomy. And my final question is, and this takes you to the Twilight Zone, have you ever heard of the Cydonia complex? It has 3 pyramids and a face, geometrically aligned. That's on Mars. If you can believe what your eyes see, here it is. Here's the face on Mars, which some people call a hill, but as you can see, it's definitely a face. And you see these other pyramids, there's 12 in all. This was taken in 1976 by the Voyager. I'm going a little bit over time here, so I'm going to move to my conclusion. But again, these are known as the monuments on Mars. This is known as the Cydonia complex, Cydonia. Google it. Okay, on to my conclusion. I, as well as many others, have been mystified as to the building techniques and the purposes of these amazing structures. We do have hypotheses about the nature and function of the pyramids, but I may suggest that there's some larger purpose at work here. After doing a fair amount of reading about the subject, I lean towards the ancient astronaut theory, as weird as it sounds. In Egypt and elsewhere, where language and writing forms existed, there's no hieroglyphs, paintings, or visual depictions showing how these structures were built. Anywhere on Earth, there is no step-by-step, this is how we did it. And a lot of ancient civilizations, they had, they might not have written languages, but they had at least, hieroglyphs or Sanskrit writing or pictographs, or you don't see that. So in that respect, that is why there's so many theories being tossed around because that's all we have to go of. So my mind still wanders, and I hope your mind starts to wonder about human history, and I encourage you to dig deeper because you may find the truth.